So as you all know by now, we got Trump's tax information not too long ago. This, to me, was one of the bigger stories that came out of it. So this is in Newsweek. Full list of Trump's foreign bank accounts. I don't know why, as president, you have foreign bank accounts. That shouldn't be allowed, and perhaps, by the way, it's not. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a sec. They say the release of 6 years of Donald Trump's tax returns show that the former president held several foreign bank accounts throughout his time in the White House. House Democrats on Friday unveiled Trump's records following a protracted legal battle. The businessman turned president's years-long refusal to hand over the filings fueled public suspicion about what they might reveal. Some political observers believe they could contain key clues to his foreign business ties, or perhaps that he was less wealthy than he often claimed. The release revealed that Trump listed multiple foreign bank accounts during his time in office. Now, again, we'll get to the specifics of this here in a second. But it should be noted, all of this stuff was unearthed. So, in other words, it is true he's not as wealthy as he claims to be. We got a sense of that from the tax returns. But I honestly don't think that's all that surprising. I don't think that's all that big of a deal. I think the bigger deal is there's evidence of criminal tax evasion in there. And then also these foreign bank accounts are sketchy at the very least, but potentially even criminal. In 2016, Trump held accounts in China, Ireland, the United Kingdom, and St. Martin, according to CNN. He again listed the first three the following year and only the UK in 2018 and 2020. Now, I want you to stop and think for a second. If it came out that Joe Biden had a Chinese bank account, I don't think the right would ever shut up about it. I think they would talk about it for months on end. And they would say, this is smoking gun, super corrupt. Look at all the dealings with Hunter Biden, which, by the way, some of that stuff is fair, right? Hunter shouldn't be taking money from a Ukrainian energy company. He doesn't know dick about dick when it comes to that field. I think that's obvious pay to play. Now, the details of it matter. So how much was Joe involved? And, all that stuff needs to be fleshed out and needs to be investigated, and then you can determine what a proper response or punishment is. But in the case of Trump here, if Biden just had a Chinese bank account, they'd be like, oh, game, set, match, lock him up, throw away the key. Trump has multiple foreign bank accounts, China, Ireland, United Kingdom, and St. Martin, and everybody's yawning on the right as if this is nothing. He's a businessman, and so he's very successful, and that's why he has this. So if anything, more power to him. This is the gist of the implication that I'm getting from the right. Okay. Representative-elect Daniel Goldman, a New York Democrat, highlighted Trump's dealings with one country in particular. Quote, Trump had bank accounts in China while he was in office until 2018, Goldman wrote in a tweet. Generally, you only have bank accounts in a foreign country if you are doing transactions in that country's currency. What business was Trump doing in China while he was president? Wow. Okay, more. The New York Times reported in 2020 on the bank account in China and that it was linked to a business push there from Trump International Hotels management. At the same time that Trump was running for re-election, he accused Democratic opponent Joe Biden of being China's so-called puppet. Biden, however, has not received income from or done business with China per his own disclosures and returns. In Trump's first year as president, he paid less in U.S. federal income taxes than he did in foreign taxes. His taxes abroad roughly totaled $1 million in 2017, but in the U.S. that year, he paid only $750. Wow. Paying more in foreign taxes than he did in U.S. taxes. Chinese bank account. Now, look, my instinct is to say, well, I mean, he actually did tariffs against China and sort of was a little bit standoffish with them when it comes to economic policy and trade policy. So that's actually evidence of like, hey, he didn't really sell out to China by having this bank account there. That's my instinct. But then when you think about it, you realize, well, hold on, maybe he would have gone even tougher against them. Maybe he would have done even stronger tariffs. Maybe he would have done, more protectionism if it wasn't for some sort of weird business dealing with China or the Chinese government. Now, to be clear, this is all speculation, right? Like, we don't know for sure. We would need to learn the specifics. We need to investigate the specifics and get the details and then determine how much this is okay, how much of it is wrong. But no president, and this is not a controversial statement, Democrat, Republican, or otherwise, no president should be taking money from certainly foreign governments, but even like foreign businesses. Because where does your allegiance lie? if you're doing business with some foreign government, you can bias U.S. policy in their favor. You can extract stuff from them. You could work on their behalf and not on behalf of the American people. Now, we're used to this corruption with corporations, right? Politicians always represent corporations and billionaires. But now you're adding like foreign governments to the list? I mean, to steal a line from Trump here, at what point do we say, do we even have a country? Right? He used to say that about, well, you don't have a wall, you don't have a country. It's like, you don't have a president who's representing the people, you don't have a country. If all they're doing is representing corporations, billionaires, and now fucking a list of foreign countries, well, who's looking out for Americans? Okay, more. CNN listed a number of other countries where Trump had cited business income, expenses, taxes, or other significant financial items, including Azerbaijan, Brazil, Canada, China, Dominican Republic, Georgia, Grenada, India, Indonesia, Ireland, Israel, Mexico, Panama, Philippines, Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico's U.S. territory, Qatar, South Korea, St. Martin, St. Vincent, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and United Kingdom. What the fuck, man? You cannot have all of these interests all over the world when your job is to be president of the United States of America. Trump previously warned House Democrats in a statement sent to Newsweek that they, quote, should have never made the records public. He also argued that the U.S. Supreme Court shouldn't have approved their release. It's going to lead to horrible things for so many people. No, only horrible things for you, douche, because people realize who and what you are and that you're for sale. Trump said, the great USA divide will now grow far worse. The radical left Democrats have weaponized everything. But remember, that is a dangerous two-way street. So nice, some veiled threats. What's going to be your response here, Don? How are you going to get back at people for letting facts be known about your business dealings? Okay, so I just want to remind everybody, what he said he would do in regards to his money and his investments and his businesses. Because some people, if somebody's inclined to like Trump, they might see this and say, I don't care. They always did this. Oh, I don't care. It just shows he's a great businessman. He's brilliant. And we need that mind to help the United States of America. This is stuff that they say, right? Or when there was already speculation, hey, he didn't pay any taxes for X number of years. He said, that's because I'm smart. And then his supporters would be like, that's right. That just proves he's a genius. Now, again, flip it. If it was Joe Biden who didn't pay any taxes, what would the Trump supporters say about him? They would say, oh, you don't even have skin in the game. You're not even supporting the United States of America. You're a selfish, greedy prick who's a corrupt businessman. When it's Trump, oh no, that just shows he's intelligent. Okay, so here's what the deal was, what Trump was supposed to do with his money when he became president.
Trump.
I will sever connections, and I'll have my children and my executives run the company.
The Trump Organization announced it would transfer the business to his children without mentioning a blind trust. But Trump's lawyer used the term when asked about it on CNN.
It's going to be placed into a blind trust. The children.
Experts say that's not even close to the definition of a blind trust. And when we reached out to Cohen for further clarification, he declined to comment.
That is not a trust that meets the norm, because having your children run your trust does not discharge the conflicts of interest, because the interests of your children, particularly in this case, are coextensive with his self-interest.
A real blind trust requires the president to sell off assets. Trump's blind trust would keep his current businesses up and running. A real blind trust requires an independent trustee to oversee the assets. In Trump's blind trust, his children would control the company, the same children who helped run his campaign and are on his transition team. In a real blind trust, the president doesn't know where the money is invested. That's the blind part. Trump already knows where all of the investments are.
If you know you own the Empire State Building and you put it into a blind trust, you don't forget that you own the Empire State Building.
What Trump has proposed is the opposite of a blind trust. And as president, there's no law to stop him from doing it.
So remember, when Jimmy Carter was president, he had to sell his peanut farm. He was forced to sell his peanut farm. Why? Because of the emoluments clause of the Constitution, which is a fancy way of saying the president can't be corrupt and take money from foreign businesses or foreign countries, foreign governments. And so the fear was, hey, he has this peanut farm. What's to stop country X from dumping money into his peanut farm? And then President Carter does some favors for that country. Trump was full of these conflicts of interest. I mean, we've discussed other ones before, but remember, he owned the hotel in D.C., and you had a situation where Saudi Arabia paid for U.S. veterans to go stay at that hotel and do like a tour or whatever bullshit. And they way overpaid. They gave Trump like $300,000 for this trip. And then, of course, lo and behold, Trump turns around and grants them a multi-billion-dollar weapons deal and also vetoes legislation that would have stopped U.S. support of Saudi's genocide of Yemen. So he does favors for them, or excuse me, they do favors for him, he returns the favors. That's how this works. And we saw this also with the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, right? He didn't even give him a slap on the wrist. He didn't even say a negative word about them after they, hacked a journalist to pieces. What are we talking about here? This is crazy. And we've seen it time and time again. I mean, now, there was great reporting on this not too long ago. Trump is officially in negotiations with the government of Oman as he's running for president. He wants to do a business deal with the government of Oman as he's running for president right now. Well, what the fuck? Clearly you're going to take millions of dollars from them and then you're going to do favors for them when you're president. That's rank corruption. But see, the thing is, he's out over his skis. He's out over his skis. Like, he's gotten away with so much for so long that he feels like, even though this might actually be illegal, I'm going to do it. Instead of just doing the legal bribery and corruption, like what corporations and billionaires give money, he's like, no, I'm just going to go further. I'll just go, now foreign governments, foreign heads of state, whatever. I haven't been called to this point. Fuck it. I'm just going to keep going. Again, same thing with Saudi Arabia. They gave $2 billion to Jared Kushner. Now, why do you think they did that? They just like Jared. They think he's a brilliant businessman. No, Saudi Arabia, they had, their own independent body look into it and determine whether or not it was a good investment. They said, don't give this money to Jared. MBS overruled his own independent body and said, no, give him the money. Well, gee, why? Why is that? It's probably because they served Saudi when they were in power. And then also, if they get into power again, well, they know we'll get whatever the fuck we want. Trump is hosting Live Golf Tour events at his golf courses. Live Golf is a Saudi-backed golf tour with all these defectors from the PGA Tour. They're paying people preposterous sums of money, like $100 million for Dustin Johnson or whatever the fuck it was. How much are they paying to use Trump's golf courses? This hasn't been disclosed. Like, the exact number hasn't been disclosed. I would guess it's at least 50 million, maybe over 100 million to have all these events at his courses. So you're going to take, at the very least, tens of millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia as you are running for president? This is like the most corruption I've ever seen. And then they have the nerve to go after Biden for his corruption. When if you actually go by the specific dollar amount, Trump's corruption is way worse. Now, I'm an opponent of the corruption of both of them, right? Like, I'm against any sort of Joe Biden corruption and Hunter Biden corruption. I'm against Trump corruption. But it's just so astonishing that they can smugly go after the Bidens when they're just as bad, if not way worse. So, he didn't do any of this. Blind trust my ass cheeks. First of all, what he was proposing, as you just learned, wasn't even a blind trust. But they didn't even do that. He was still making money from all these foreign countries and probably foreign businesses. So those are the big parts of the Trump taxes. This is why he wanted to hide it. He's not as wealthy as he said he was. He committed criminal tax evasion. That's clear based on what came out. And also, he's making all this money from foreign governments, which is not allowed for an American president. And by the way, if this came out, this is the most important point. If this came out when he was president, you actually would have had a slam dunk case on impeachment over the emoluments clause. Because it's very clear that a lot of this money, where it's coming from, is not allowed under the U.S. Constitution. So that's why he tried to keep it quiet. But by the way, even if it did come out, what Republicans would have done at the time. They would have circled the wagons and said, no, we're not going to go after him. It's our corruption is fine when our guy does it. So there you have it. This is big news. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.